So I wanted to start out by saying that this is not sponsored by DeWalt, but it's also not trying to say that they're bad or anything. I like DeWalt's products, but this one has a very serious flaw. I've said a lot of bad things about miter saws in my day, and the reason isn't that miter saws in general are bad, it's just that every single company builds them with this free play in the hinge. See what I'm talking about? It's not acceptable. To be fair, the average consumer who's going to buy this is probably a DIY kind of guy who's not trying to be very precise, or a contractor, a framer. They're never going to care about this play in the hinge. They're probably never even going to notice. But for somebody like myself who's trying to do precision woodwork, I am going to go crazy trying to use this thing because it won't be accurate enough. Sometimes I have to cut down a long board, and I currently have no way to do that except with a hand saw. So I decided I needed a miter saw, so I just went to Home Depot and wiggled all of them and bought the most solid one there. I got it home, and this one's not quite as solid as the display model, so it's not acceptable. So I'm gonna try to fix it. You're probably saying that if it's not acceptable, just take it back. But this was the best one there. So if I take it back, what am I gonna do? How much play there actually is. It's pretty bad. First of all, I had to determine where this play is coming from. And if I put my finger over the end of the hinge pin here and wiggle it, I can feel this pin moving in the socket. So I'll lower the saw down, try to wiggle side to side. And yes, you can definitely see that. With the saw up, if I try to wiggle side to side, you can also see the pin moving up and down. Obviously, the pin is just way too small for the hole. My strategy for fixing this is to simply take this pin out and put in a bigger pin. I hope. It looks like I should be able to remove the stop, the upper limit that stops it here, so that it can just flop all the way over backwards, and that should unwind the spring. With the stop removed, you should be able to just let this... The spring is loose now, so... Here on the back of the saw there are 2 set screws. I think that's what's holding the pin in. I see, there's actually a plastic bushing. Well, this is the problem that I've had with 90% of all tools that I've experienced. You've got nicely machined parts here, a fairly nice finish around here, a very nice shaft for it to run on, nice smooth finish on this, clean bore there, and then a pathetically cheap little plastic bushing in a critical location where it matters most. And this isn't unique to this saw, it's not unique to DeWalt. It seems like every product that I've encountered has that one part in a critical location that's just garbage. So I guess instead of making a new, bigger diameter shaft, I'm gonna just make some new bushings. Here's the bushings. You can see they have a slot around them. Anyways, that's just super cheap injection molded part. I have a piece of UHMW here, so I'm just going to make a new bushing out of this. Anyone who's ever machined plastic will know that when you get it really thin, it's pretty much impossible to be precise because it deflects. So after I bore out the hole to exactly the right diameter, I'm going to put this little mandrel that I made in the hole to hold it round while I turn the outside down. And that way I should be able to get that thin little bushing exactly the right thickness all the way. I really only have one shot at this because I don't have enough plastic to make 3 bushings. Ooh, that looks like I took off plenty based on the size of wad of shavings. This is no better than the original, so I'll have to start over. Well, that was a fail since I overbored it, but that should be enough. I can fail several times. Now if I did it right, this axle should be just a light press fit. So I got the mandrel installed. Now I just need to cut this down to the proper outside diameter and leave a flange on this end at the proper distance from the end. So I'm going to go ahead and part this off and go try out this bushing. See how close it is. That's my cutoff tool. By the way, you might not want to try this with metal. I have broken the carbides off trying that before, but I think it'll cut plastic just fine. It's kind of hard to be precise with that old lathe, but I guess here I'm putting it to the test. Actually, I should stop blaming the lathe. It's me. How close was this? This should fit just snugly with no play. And it is not good enough. I'm gonna have to make another. It doesn't fit snugly enough in this hole. I don't know how many tries it's going to take to actually get one right. Now this does need to be very, very precise. 1,000th of play in this hole is going to equal, maybe 8,000ths or something out here. That's not good enough. Okay, second attempt. I'm really liking how the bushing fits in here. No way that's going to work. That's too tight. Another bushing. Another attempt. Nice. But if this doesn't fit, it's not so nice. Nice. That is super tight, but if I'm able to turn it this way, then it'll for sure be okay. Ah, yeah, I can turn it. Good. Hopefully I can repeat my luck for the other side. And by luck, I mean skill. All right, bushing number 5. Nice. Nice. I can still turn that one by hand, so that's gonna work. This should be ready to reassemble now, but I do want to try to remove that little welt that the set screw left. Otherwise that's going to damage the bushing when I put the shaft in. I'm just going to be filing this down, but the lathe is a good way to hold that while I do it. That should be good enough. Of course, the thickness of the flange on these bushings also mattered, but I think, yeah, that's going to fit. And this thing that operates the guard, it's also held on by the stop pin, which, as you recall, I removed earlier. So this fits tight enough that it doesn't lift nearly as fast as it did before. It's very gentle. And yet I think it's not so tight that it's going to be putting undue stress on the parts. Now obviously this just removes the play. So with some side-to-side force, if you really yank on it, you can get it to flex a little bit. To me, this isn't nearly the problem that it was originally. So, fixed. Now I need to cut a board on this. I'm not even sure if this thing works. I've never cut anything on it yet. Left quite a bit of yellow paint on the initial cut, I guess. That actually left a super nice finish with the factory blade. Aside from the little issue with the bushings, this seems to actually be a pretty good saw. It's very smooth. I think it's got to be the smoothest saw I've ever used. The smoothest miter saw. So probably not very many of you are going to repeat this new bushing making process, but I hope that at least if DeWalt is watching, that they will realize that these things are kind of not good enough. Thanks for watching.